God said to Moses, I'm in a burning bush, but take off your shoes because this ground that you stand on is holy. So he took off his sandals and he was on holy ground. And then to come into the Holy of Holies, you had to meet a bunch of criteria. You could only be the high priest. You could only go into the place. And now God is saying, you are the place that my holiness will reside. You don't become or earn holiness. You're holy because I reside in you. And I chose to reside in you. I didn't say I would reside in a certain amount of people that did all the right things. He said, I'm going to reside in you. I'm holy. I'm coming in to reside into you, which makes you holy. So you're set apart. And then he says, as I come into you, you're holy. And you have the honor and the privilege and the right to partake of my divine nature. So now we don't have to try to be like God. We don't have to try and act like God. We don't have to try and play the part. He's saying your actual nature has changed to where when you look in the mirror, which the Word calls the mirror, you look into the mirror, you look into the Word, and you see yourself. Not after you've accomplished all of the things that you should or shouldn't do. He's saying, I'm in you, so now you can look into my Word and see you, because that's what I accomplished, that's what I bought for you. When Jesus died on the cross, his blood was shed. He purchased us. And we get to enter into that. So we're a holy people. We're a holy nation. A group of people that can enter in to his holiness. Which doesn't give us the right to say, well, you over there doing your thing that's not what I'm doing, I'm going to condemn you because you're not doing what I'm doing, because I'm holy. Well, when did we get the right to brag about something we had nothing to do with? We are holy because he made us holy. Romans chapter 12 and verse 1 and 2, it says that we're a living sacrifice. That we present our bodies a living sacrifice, which is a reasonable service. Like this is something that, okay, this is my body, but now my body isn't my own. So I'm giving it back to be a living sacrifice so that I might know what the will of God is. Again, we're stepping into what he has for us so that we can partake of who we actually are. Which then redefines what success actually looks like. Because what is the standard of success? You have the world's view of what physical success looks like, what financial success looks like. The problem is, no matter how far you get down that road, you can open a magazine and see, I'm not quite there yet. I don't look like that yet. I don't have that size of home yet. I'm not driving that car yet. So it's this endless cycle of it's never good enough. So you're always chasing. And Jesus says, I am your standard. And the good news is I've already accomplished everything that needs to happen for you to step into that standard. You know, there's I don't even know what it was. I think it was an ad I saw a few years ago, and it really irritated me. I understand what they were trying to accomplish or what the message was trying to accomplish. I believe it was around diversity. But it was a screen and it was an x-ray, and it was 5 different people, and all you saw was their skeletons, and they all looked relatively the same. It was their skeletons, and then they flipped it away from the x-ray, and you saw the people, and there were people of different sizes and colors and all of these different things, and it said, see, we're all the same. We're celebrating diversity because we're all the same. And so, isn't the very definition of diversity is that we're not all the same? So if we can't celebrate the fact that we're different, what difference does it make? Like, well, we're going to celebrate diversity because we're all the same. No, that's not diversity. You're all the same. That's not diverse at all. Like, I get to look at you and you look completely different than me, and that's fantastic. You act completely different than me. Fantastic. We've never experienced hardly any of the same experiences or life experiences. Fantastic. You talk different than me. Fantastic. But the world would say, if you don't look like me and act like me, we're going to tell you that we want you to embrace us, but we're only going to embrace you if you look like us, but you embrace us even though there's just this really convoluted, it's confusing. And so here's what Jesus would say. Think it's a good idea to follow what he says? Yes. Probably so. So Jesus says in Matthew chapter 5. Now I'll read this one out of the New King James. We're going to start in verse 30. Now we're going to read a little bit more. Well, we're starting in verse 33. I'll read quickly. Again, you have heard that it is said that those of old that you should not swear falsely, but shall perform the oaths to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all. Okay. Neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by earth, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king, nor shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your yes be yes and your no be no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Verse 38, you have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I tell you not to resist an evil person. And this may sound confusing because the Bible also says to resist the devil and he'll flee from you. And sometimes it's hard for us to differentiate the devil and a person that's being used by the devil. Because Jesus would say, resist the devil, but the person he's using, love him. Don't equate the person with the spirit behind the person. So we're going to not resist the evil person, but whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him also have your cloak. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. Verse 43, you have heard it said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven, for he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brother only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. So we're called as the church, as a holy nation, as a holy people set apart to God, to act different. The enemy or the world would say, if you don't agree with me, we're enemies. And we're called to say, you may disagree with me, but I pray for you and I love you. I don't count that against you because we don't agree. So here's the tough love that Jesus gives us. And this is how he said it to me. He said, we simply cannot love our enemies without him. We can't will ourselves to love our enemies. We can't will ourselves to love those that we don't agree with, that do things that we think are evil, or even if they are evil. We can't just say, I'm going to decide to love you. We can't do it without him. And then here's the litmus test. Whenever you feel justified in your distaste for someone else, you know you are out of love. When we're justified in our own mind of our distaste for somebody else, I'm right in disliking that person. Look what they did. Look who they are. Look where they've come from. Look what they said. I feel justified in this because that's unholy. And I'm holy. Doesn't feel good, does it? When you just say it like that. Because it's easy to mask it and be self-righteous about it. But when you come out and say it, like it feels dirty. So the Bible is also very clear that in the time that the Bible was written, the Pharisees and Sadducees would get up and they would say something similar to what I just said. And they would say, do this, don't do that, do this. And then they would turn around and they would do the exact same thing. And they weren't held to the same accountability. And Jesus didn't like that. He said, how dare you get up in front of people and say, don't do this, don't do that, but then you turn around and do the same thing, you hypocrite. And so as I was preparing this message, there was a healthy dose of conviction. Because there are people in this room, because I hear a lot of stories about a lot of people from a lot of different people. Doesn't feel like the church, really, but that's how it is. People talk in the church and out of the church. So I hear a lot of things. And I have found myself not filtering my thoughts from my words, and I find myself saying something about somebody that I heard, and it is not love. And so as I was preparing this message, I was just so convicted. I said, Lord, I repent, forgive me. And he was so quick. Absolutely. You're forgiven. And he didn't say this, but this is how I hear him. If this offends you, this is probably not how he talks to you. He said, great, and you don't get away that easy. He said, you get to stand in front of the people that you've talked about and ask for their forgiveness. And so that's what I'm doing. Because it's not okay. And if that's the culture that's being created, it will never stop. And so I ask for your forgiveness. And there's no excuse. There's no caveat. It used to be I would add at the end of that some sarcastic thing, but some of you are just hard to love. And it can be funny and we can laugh, but it's not okay. Because if that's what's being modeled, that's what being a sheep in a maze designed by wolves looks like. Yeah, come here, it's a safe place, as long as you agree with everything that we say. And it's not safe. And so what I commit to you is if you come to me and talk to me about somebody else, I will not be kind about that situation. Don't come to me and talk to somebody else. And I will do the same. Because what kind of functional family cuts each other off at the feet and expects to be a growing family? That's not healthy. And that's what it takes because the Lord is saying, we're going somewhere so incredible. And none of us can do it alone. I can't get to where I need to be without you, and you can't get to where you need to be without me as the body. And how powerful is that in the sense that I'm dependent on the body? Because that's how Jesus designed it. He said, I'm the head, you're the body, you have many pieces, many parts. If you're not working together, you can't do the things that I'm calling you to do. You just can't. And so here's where Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. This is where we can really start to put the word into practice. chapter 2, verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. In the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside the grace of God, for its righteousness comes through the law. Then Christ died in vain. So when we think about living a holy life, like I died. Dead men don't have opinions. We don't have the right to have opinions. So I was crucified in Christ. Now the life that I live by the faith in the Son of God. So I'm living by faith. And when you think about being set apart, like we talk about the tithe, the first 10th of your income is set apart to the Lord, but really, what part of your income isn't set apart? I mean, we can choose to set apart as much as we want to. But when I think about like how much influence do I want God to have in my life? Do I want him to bless 10% of my income or all of it? So we set apart that side. We set apart some of our time of the day. We set apart, this is how we can kind of compartmentalize things. And this is where it's a slippery slope, because you can definitely get into bondage here by making sure, okay, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? He's like, no, that's not what it's about. Because this didn't say, come present your part of your body or part of your life. He says, just give me the whole thing. And then you don't have to worry about it. Like, I give you everything. So then, when I look at my money, I can't say it's my money anymore. So the Lord's been helping me with this to look at the bank account in which my money is held, and I'm now managing the money that he gave me. So when I'm managing money that's not mine, and he says, give a portion of it away, like, sure, it's your money. If that's how you want me to manage this, then that's what I'll do. And the 24 hours that each of us have in the day, like, it's not my time. I'm managing the time that he's giving me. So how am I going to manage it? It's not mine. It's just like, well, I want to protect my time. It's just not yours. And is he better? Does he want better for you than you want for yourself? Yeah. Because I don't know about any of you, but if I were running a race and I had a bowling ball tied to one of my ankles, like, I wouldn't be upset at any of you for cutting the bowling ball off of my ankle. But sometimes we look at, well, this is my bowling ball, and this is just how I'm going to live my life. And the Lord's like, hey, get that out of your life. But it's mine. He's saying, if you want to be set apart, it's time to give up some of the things that you hold so dearly to you that are really not helping at all. Because the Lord's not wanting your life to get worse. He's not saying, be holy, be set apart to me so that I can make you suffer through life. He's saying, actually, what's happening is you're suffering through life, and I want you to be holy and set apart to me so that you don't have to do that anymore. And that's a big difference. And I don't know what it is about things that we've talked about in the past as well, but like, why gossiping is so hard to give up. Why backbiting is so hard to give up. Why slander is so hard to give up. It's almost like there's this insecurity within us that if we don't push somebody else down, we're going to feel worse about ourselves. So out of my insecurity, I'm going to push you down so I feel better. And the Lord's, and I love this quote, it's impossible for you to compete with me because I want you to win too. We're not competing with each other. Like we win together. We as a church, we win when we all win. And think about, just practically speaking, think if you met somebody and all they did was lie and cheat, and they were mean to everybody, and they had no friends, and they just treated everybody poorly, and then one day they came to you and they said, hey, can I introduce you to somebody that I've learned to live life by? And I want you to live like them too. No, your life's not attractive. Why would I do that? And so if we're going to say we're holy, we're set apart, we're ambassadors for Christ, like how are we representing our Jesus? I think most of us are doing a pretty good job. Like this isn't like you're all doing really poorly at this Christian thing. I think most of us are doing a really good job, and Jesus is saying we're going further than we've ever gone before. We're going to a new altitude, and there are things that we can't take into the new altitude. And if for those of us that refuse to give those things up, I can't predict your future, but if the Lord's saying, cut this off to come with me, and you refuse to cut the thing off, he's not standing still. Like he's going to move, he's going to accomplish his will. And so this would be my desire. And it kind of an interesting way to put this, but so my brother and I started a business this year, and we have some different employees that all come from different places, but they interact a lot with each other. And most of them are from different countries, and so we've created a culture where like, hey, everybody's supported, everybody, like we want everybody to win, so this is going to be a family. And this was about 5 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. One of the employees said something to the other employee in a public forum that just was not okay. And I hate confrontation. Like I'll avoid it for every fiber of my being. I'm just like, oh no. Like he didn't just say that, did he? It's like, if I just back away, maybe it'll just all go away. My brother is not like that. And so we fired him. Like, on the spot. He said, that is not okay. And he said, the reason I did that was because all of the other employees, if they see that is an allowable behavior, none of them are safe. Like if we allow that to happen, what else are we going to allow to happen? And the Bible is like, this is not a threat. This is what happened in the Bible. If people were out of line and they refused to accept correction, they were asked to leave because of the safety of the flock. Like we are going to protect our people with everything that we have. And the Apostle Paul, it was a two strikes and you're out. Like we love you. We're going to support you. We want everybody to be safe and growing together. But if you refuse to love, you are not welcome. I'm not enacting a new policy. I'm just saying that we want everybody to feel safe, to know that we're for you, and just know that you attacking somebody else for what they say or even what they believe is not okay. Not okay. So I'll leave you with this. This is what I left the first service with. A nice little light note. These are just the first five that came to my mind because they've been so prevalent in the last 24 months everywhere. especially in the church, but everywhere. So I'm going to say, I think, 3 names and 2 topics, and it will probably trigger everybody in the entire room one way or another. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, vaccinations, BLM. I can feel the atmosphere shifting right now. I didn't tell you what I thought about any of them. But do you feel the tension in the room right now? Break it off. Like, I don't care what side of the fence you stand on. I really don't. What I do care about is if you're standing on this side of the fence and you're throwing rocks at somebody that's standing on the other side of the fence, it's not okay. It reminds me a little bit about the church in Corinthians, I believe. Don't quote me. It reminds me of something that happened in the Bible. It had to do with eating food offered to idols. We don't have to deal with that anymore. Like, we're past that. We're bigger than that. I'm not going to sit at the table with somebody that eats food offered to an idol. That had to be corrected. Hey, who are you to say you're not going to sit with somebody else and not treat them with love because they're eating something that you don't agree with? And vice versa. If you have the faith to say, I'm going to eat this because it's from the Lord and it's blessed and that I'm okay with it, but I'm going to condemn you for not having the faith to do what I can do, it's no different. So then to use that same logic to say whether you have or have not received the vaccination, I'm going to treat you different. If you voted for one or the other, I'm going to treat you different. That's not Jesus. It's just not. You can have strong opinions. I don't really care. Have your opinion. You're entitled to it. We all get our own opinions. We can have strong convictions about anything we want to. Whether it's biblical or not, that's between you and the Lord. But it's to use your conviction as justification to treat somebody poorly. It's not okay. Because Jesus was very harsh on sin, as so should we. Jesus also would meet with the sinner. He would dine with them. He would pull them out of judgment. Because did Jesus go to the woman that was caught in adultery, and did he coddle her and say, you know what, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Just keep doing it, and I'll love you anyways. Of course not. He pointed out that she sinned. Any of you? Have you not? Okay, cool. You're forgiven. I don't judge you either. I don't condemn you either. Now stop doing what you're doing. I don't know why it's so difficult sometimes to not be so polarized. Well, if you love the person, it means you're also condoning the sin. No. That's not what Jesus did. It is good. It's good news that Jesus came not to condemn the world, but to save the world from their sin. Jesus came to show them that the love of God is stronger than your sin. The love of God is stronger than the condemnation. The love of God is supreme. And he's a holy God that will not tolerate sin into his presence. Which also doesn't mean that, okay, stop sinning and then you can come into my presence. It's impossible. He said, I'm going to come and forgive the thing that prevents you from coming into my presence so that you can come into my presence. So for us to then create standards that Jesus didn't create and barriers to get into Jesus' presence that he didn't create, I don't want to be there. I don't think any of you want to be there either. To say, oh, yeah, I don't know. But I do know that the church is called to be in unity, which does not mean we agree on everything, but we're unified. And we're going to link arms together. And we're going to move forward. We're going to be obedient to the calling that God has called us to. Because a house divided. And if the enemy knows what can divide us, he will use it every single time. So just like Tony said last week, I believe that's a noble goal for every single one of us in this room, to be unoffendable. I refuse to be offended. It's not my right. And Jesus is bigger than that anyways. Prayer team, if you want to come forward. I've had this interesting, for as long as I can remember, I've had this interesting empathy for bullies. Like, I can't stand the act of being a bully. Like to my core, it's one of the things that I tolerate the least. And it's interesting, simultaneous empathy for the bully. Like, who's standing up for the bully? Who's going to bat for the bully? Because if the bully is the enemy, like that, being a bully to a bully doesn't solve the problem. And so I just feel this compassion of, like if you're in here and you feel attacked, I apologize. That is not the intent. Like my heart is that we all feel safe and accountable at the same time. So there is no outlier. Like, oh, you act like this, so you're in the corner, and we don't like you, but we'll tolerate you. And that's not fun. But if you have anything that you would like prayer for, or with, or an agreement with, we've got folks up here that would love to pray for you and with you. I'm really encouraged. It may not seem like I am right now, but I really am. I'm really encouraged by what I sense the Lord is doing, and like he's moving quickly. And there's these windows of opportunity for the church to really get on board with what he's doing. And it's going to be really good. He has some criteria of not to be, how do you become accepted by me, but because that's already been given. Like, he's already done that. But now he's saying, who wants to go with me? And just like a lot of people in the Bible, actually, like, hey, like if this is a call to go forward with you, like, pick me. Like, here I am. Like, send me. Or like Moses, like, I'm not going forward unless your presence is with me. Like, I refuse to try and do this thing without your presence. So we're going forward. We're moving in his presence. And we're being transformed the whole way. Our minds are being renewed. And it's really good. So Lord, I thank you. I thank you so much for your goodness, for your mercy. I thank you for loving us, for your word. I ask for your grace, Lord. Grace to see, grace to know. I thank you for your spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of who you are, that you would open up our hearts of understanding. Of understanding of who you are and who we are. I thank you that this week is full of opportunities, divine connections, open doors, and peace. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, if you want prayer, come forward. If you don't, that's cool. Stay here as long as you want to. If you could be out in the foyer, just out of respect for those that are getting prayer.